he always gets the benefit of the doubt. Even the teams he's left are like, man, Antonio Brown came in good shape, and it made our practices a whole lot better. Let's dig into this topic much further right now.
Not a great performance by Brady.
The ugly was Brady. Bruce Arians doesn't figure out quickly. It's going to look a lot like Jameis.
I thought the offense did look out of sync.
You can't possibly think that it's the end of Tom Brady. Once they get on the same page and in sync, you're going to see a totally different Tampa Bay Buccaneer team.
Brady throws a pass near sideline, caught ball by Vaughn. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Brady throws toward O.J. Howard. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Mike Evans, touchdown, Tampa Bay. Scotty Miller in it. He's got the ball. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Ball, Gronkowski. Touchdown, Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
You're hearing a whole lot of that for sure. I want to mention one stat before we jump into this. This is fascinating. Steve Levy mentioned this on ESPN's Monday Night Football. I thought it was a great stat. There is no player in the NFL that has been targeted more in the end zone since he started his career
than Mike Evans.
You were able to complete that sentence. I thought it was just a great stat. There's so many guys you could think about because of the pitch-catch combinations in the NFL. Certainly Brady would be on one end of it, but with Russ and Metcalf and Rodgers and Adams, I know he's been hurt. That's a great 1-2 combination. Maybe underrated because all the preseason hype was on Gronk, but I just sort of wanted to mention that.
If you look at, and Mike Evans may be that, the number one guy, but if you go down the list of guys that are targeted in the red zone, they're all bigs, right? They're all 6'3", red zone targets. Gronkowski, I'm sure when he was in New England, he was heavily targeted in the red zone on that list as well.
Okay, so bottom line, Sunday Night Football, Saints-Bucks rematch of week number 1 where the panic meter was like, what's wrong with Tom Brady? Things have changed. 6-2 start, best start for the Bucks through 8 games since Key won the Super Bowl with Brad Johnson and the boys down in Tampa about 17 years ago. Okay, so set up the barometer here. It's the rematch. They both got plenty of games under their belt. What's on the line? How much AB should we see? There's so much to dig into.
I think you'll see some AB. I think you'll see AB run around that 25 to 30 plus snaps in the game, and when he's in the game, he'll be an important part of what they do. He'll lift the coverage. He'll get some screens, and they'll give him some soft stuff, throw him some screens, throw him some hitches, allow him to get his feet underneath him a little bit. I think more people are probably counting the New Orleans Saints out in this particular game, just because when you go back to week 1 and you look at New Orleans beating Tampa, people think, oh, well, Tampa Bay's not on the same page with each other yet. Well, neither was New Orleans. And Michael Thomas didn't have a great game. I think he had 2 catches for like 17 yards.
But, Key, isn't it fair to say that they've had the Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, Kamara situation working a lot longer than all the new Bucs pieces?
That is fair to say, but when you have veteran players and guys like Tom Brady, they can get on the same page quick, fast, in a hurry. It didn't take them long to be at the mark that they're at now. They're 5-2.
Like week 2 against Carolina, right? Week 2, boom, bounce back. They're 6-2.
So you 6-2. So you bounce back and you start to get a feel as time goes on. Everybody gets to know each other. Tom Brady knows, okay, in these situations, I can go to Mike Evans. In these situations, I know what I can do with Gronkowski. Godwin's been in and out of the lineup, so that's a little tough. In these situations, I know that I could get the ball to Leonard Fournette. I could get the ball to Ronald Jones as long as he holds on to it and doesn't fumble. Those are the sort of things that you start to gather as an offense. And once the New Orleans Saints get Michael Thomas back in the fold, Emmanuel Sanders back in the fold, I think this is going to be one of those shootout-type games where it's going to be high scoring and high flying, and New Orleans will probably wind up getting the best of them because Tampa's riding high right now.
I'm just stoked to see this game because, first off, for the high offensive power juggernaut that it's going to be, but also, it's been a while, Zubin, since I've seen Antonio Brown play. And when you start looking at some of the stats, I'm like, 731 career receptions for 11,619 yards, 83 touchdowns. Like the numbers are kind of mind-boggling with how talented he is. Key, like what offensively, obviously that he brings the energy to the table, but also like how many more weapons can Tom Brady ask for? I mean, obviously you're waiting for Chris Godwin if he doesn't play with the finger surgery. That can allow Antonio Brown to get more minutes. But, I mean, ultimately everybody's healthy on this team. I don't see how they're not one of the major favorites to win the Super Bowl.
I think they are. I think people are looking at them as one of the favorites, but there's other teams within the conference, whether it's Green Bay, Seattle, New Orleans. They're there. They do have some weapons, but it's only one football. So you've got to kind of decide in certain situations who benefits the most and the best out of those situations. I think Antonio plays 25 to 30 plays. He'll get the football. He'll get 6 or 7 targets to kind of see where he's at. In practice, you can't really gauge where a guy is at, Z. You got to kind of see in the games if he's still the same player that he was from 2 years ago. I mean, it's fair. He hadn't played in 2 seasons.
Let's say he balls out, plays many more snaps than you anticipate. Let's just say he has a great first game. Because remember, the small sample size with Tom Brady in New England, they played the Dolphins. He was excellent, and then he was immediately cut because obviously he's got all these off-the-field problems. And Mr. Kraft, the owner of the Pats, was like, I just can't have this. This decision went above Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. But let's just say he balls out. Then, do they vault ahead of everybody in the NFC, or is there still, you need to see more? If they ball out in game 1, dudes, like you just said, guys can get together, vets can find their space. What happens then?
Well, if you go back to the New England game against the Miami Dolphins, there was an emphasis on getting him the football. Tom Brady threw him the ball 2 to 3 to 4 times immediately out the gate. I mean, he had 4 or 5 catches, 50-something yards. So it wasn't a statistical explosion, but it was interesting to see how New England decided to utilize him when they got him. I think you'll see some of the same things in Tampa with Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich, that they'll try to utilize him, give him some touches to see where he's at more so than to have him explode onto the scene. Do this take them to the next level? I don't know if it does.
Really?
I don't know if it takes them to the next level because they've got to utilize him along with Chris Godwin, along with Mike Evans, along with Gronkowski. You can't forget that you got Leonard Fournette back there. You can't forget that Ronald Jones is there. Mm-hmm. When you have all these names, people get enamored with that, but it's only one football.
Mm-hmm. But Key, wouldn't you trust in the greatest quarterback of all time to manage that? Isn't that why
It's not about a managed situation. I think Tom Brady and Byron Leftwich both will do what they need to do to make the offense roll a certain way. But what happens is if someone decides to take this guy out of the game or this player out of the game, now you only got what they would consider may not necessarily be the weak link for your team, but the defense may not be scared of. The defense may not be scared of Mike Evans, for instance, right? They may say, we're going to take Gronk out. We're going to take AB out. Those are the 2 guys we're going to take out. Tom Brady's going to have to beat us with Mike Evans. And they're going to put their best corner in Jalen Ramsey on Mike Evans, and that's going to be the matchup of the game. Now, what if Jalen Ramsey's getting the best of Mike Evans in that particular game? Now those other 2 weapons aren't available to him. So just because you have the names don't necessarily mean that it's going to be this great offense of explosion.
I hear you, but you also talk about this Tampa Bay team with the best defense in the NFC, right? I mean, so you combine their defense.
Say their defense is good.
Yeah, so you combine their defense with the offensive weaponry that they have. I mean, they will have to be the considerable favorites. I mean, I know Seattle, I know the Saints, I know the Packers, other teams are there. Seattle, we're still waiting to find out what the next version of their defense is. Carlos Dunlap, Jamal Adams coming back. We'll get a chance to see them soon. But, I mean, with things on paper, you would have to say that Tampa Bay is a considerable favorite.
I don't, Jay, I watched them play against the Giants the other night, and they struggled to get that win. If Danny Dimes doesn't dime it over to the other team for whatever reason.
He was nickel and diming?
Yeah, nickel and diming.
Danny Cents.
The Giants get out of there with a W. And you say, how could that be? Well, they didn't have good teams do have stinkers from time to time, but when you play against teams like the Giants, they don't even hang around. You get rid of them. Think about Tom Brady in New England. When he was in New England, they got rid of them type of team. They didn't mess around with no sorry teams.
But every team has had some of those stinkers or those close games, Key. That's where we are this year.
The Giants.
We should mention the most obvious thing of all, but everybody says they're on board. I mean, this is a guy that just has not been able to last with any organization. Yes, he was in Pittsburgh for a while, but he has not been able to last with his last couple of organizations. That's obviously, everybody's saying the right thing. Arians, Brady, he's great, all that stuff. But we'll wait to see. His track record might indicate it's a little more difficult than originally thought. Keyshawn J. Will Zubin, presented by Progressive Insurance. We will head to the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line in 1 minute to get one of the most passionate